Hello, I am here to drop in with all of you on Cobra's Medicine Bag for the first time to share my experience with the Ting challenge from the perspective of an intuitive eater. And this is officially my fourth round of the challenge. And I have entered into the second week at this point, and about halfway through the second week, I'm going through the challenge with my friend Jen Ray, and we're supporting each other in this process, working out with each other. She's across the country from me. I'm over here in Detroit. She's out in Sonoma County, California, and so where I used to live. And she hops on the phone with me, and we start the video at the same time, and it's been a lot of fun and really supportive. And it's so nice to have somebody that I can actually do the workouts with and bounce things off of as things come up for me, in this process, and that they can share with me. And it's been very encouraging. So I've really been enjoying this challenge quite a bit. I did previously, 2 rounds of the 2022 Ting weight loss challenge. And then I did 1 round of the 2022 Get Toned challenge. And now I am in Chloe Ting's 2022 Summer Get Shredded Challenge, okay? And this one I feel was like timed perfectly the way I lined up my training cycle, because this particular challenge integrates all the previous steps of the other 3 that I've been through. So whereas the weight loss challenge seemed to be very focused on just body weight movements and doing that circuit style and really focusing on the HIIT, the high intensity interval training, and really getting that cardiovascular component in. The Get Toned challenge was like no cardio, except for, the fact that the weight training was done in a circuit style format, which does give some cardiovascular component to it, but not the same as when you're doing really focused like HIIT work. And so it was interesting between those 2 challenges because they were both a very different experience, right? But this Get Shredded challenge is like bringing all the pieces together. So she's hitting it up with regular HIIT training, giving us that really intense, short bursts of cardiovascular activity, also the strength training, lifting the weights, but then circuit style training incorporated with that, and also just pure body weight workouts. So it's been really cool to have all those pieces come together. It's been challenging. It's been very challenging, and I think I would agree with what I've heard from other people who've taken the challenge, just that this is her toughest challenge. And I definitely think that hits the mark, We did a workout in, our second week here the other day that was just brutal. It was so brutal. And I was glad that I had another person to, go through that with me, so I didn't feel so alone in the struggle, because the struggle is real sometimes, It does really challenge me to push myself to my edge in a comfortable way, And I wanted to really bring that in, that piece, This is why I wanted to share my experience in going through the Ting challenge, because I think a lot of times when people take on something like this, it's very typical to sort of go into that diet mentality zone where you feel like you have to totally change the way you're eating. You have to start restricting things. You have to, ignore what your body's telling you, all of this. And it's just simply not true. There's a way that you can challenge yourself and work to your edge in a way that feels good, and that doesn't throw you out of balance. And that's really been my focus. And there definitely has been a need for us to a little bit move around the active rest days. We're staying on target in terms of when we're supposed to finish the challenge and have that all wrapped up. So we're right on target with our training days, but we've just sort of moved around the active rest days to accommodate where our bodies were at. And it's been kind of helpful because her and I have both been hitting um, the same place of like, ooh, I think I need another rest day, right now. I'm not ready to push forward with this. We've been in sync with that, which has been kind of cool. So we just moved the active rest days around, and that's one way you can work with it. Chloe does say you can take extra active rest days if you like, but for me personally, it's a challenge, and I am doing the challenge to not only get in shape physically, but also mentally, and emotionally. And as an Ayurvedic practitioner, I understand the value of that straightening by fire when you take on a challenge that sort of requires you to tap into your inner fire, to bring that pitta energy forward where you can, really align yourself with motivation and having to have a certain, degree of discipline, that it's really a big statement you make to yourself when you take something like this on, that you're worth that investment, that you're worth that time, you're worth that energy. And it's been very transformational for me. It's been a wonderful experience. And I've also really valued how much I've been getting out of this training that goes so far beyond physical results I'm seeing. And the physical results are evident, a lot of times people will ask me as an intuitive eating counselor if they can drop weight, on intuitive eating. And you absolutely can if your weight is out of balance. If you really are at a place that isn't natural for your body, that is not your body's natural homeostasis, and a lot of times we're not really sure what that is by the time we get into our adult years, because so many of us have spent our teen years on this diet or that diet. At least I know a fair amount of people have, and people in my circle certainly. I know that it's a big thing with women, and almost all of the friends I had in high school were always on one diet or another. We get kind of conditioned and groomed, to invest in this, pursuit of some physical ideal from a very young age, and it's when we're in our formative years. So by the time you've done this and you've spent so many years eating in an artificial way, disconnected from your body, just eating and exercising in ways that outside authorities told you to, because it's going to give you that snatched waist, it's going to give you that nice round perky booty, you're going to be able to drop X amount of pounds in so many weeks, which by the way, like, nobody can predict that. Everybody is different. And if you've been a chronic dieter, if you've been somebody who struggled with eating disorder issues, and you've recovered from that, and now you're in a place where you're really looking to come into your most radiant health, where you're all aligned, mind, body, spirit, where you have appreciation for your body, where you're solid in your self-care, and that applies on every level, it really changes the whole dynamic when you start training, because no longer is your training about seeing a certain number on the scale or seeing the measurements, go down. And initially I was recording this series of vlogs with my experience on the Chloe Ting challenge on my other channel, Broad Coven, where I do a lot of readings. And if you'd like to check out that channel, if you scroll down on the home page here on Cobra's Medicine Bag, you'll see that I have my other channels listed. So if you like readings that are very much straightforward, no bull, gives it to you straight, then I'm your chick, okay? Go ahead and head on over to Broad Coven and subscribe. I got a lot of readings coming out this week. I'm really got a lot of stuff I'm launching for that channel. So, and you can see my old vlogs that I've done there as well. There is a playlist for the Chloe Ting challenge and what my experience was like with those opening challenges, if you would like to explore that a little bit. When I was initially doing the challenges and I was vlogging about it over on Broadcoven, my focus was on wanting to share some kind of physical track record, signs of progress, because I know just from being on YouTube and kind of looking around, I saw so much of this that everybody wants to see the before and the after pictures. They want to see the physical transformation. They want to hear how the measurements change. They want to hear how many pounds people lost. And I never felt comfortable like really going all the way into that, because I know the kind of mentality that feeds for a large sector of the population, okay? And it's not that there's anything wrong with appreciating the aesthetic results gained from investing in your workouts. We all want to look our best, and that does have a positive effect on our self-esteem. But when there's so much focus on that and investment in it, in particular, if you're somebody who does have a history of eating disorder, or if you are a chronic dieter, which, by the way, from my perspective, if you're a chronic dieter, I do consider that falling within the eating disorder category. It's eating disorder not otherwise specified, okay? EDNOS. It won't get you a clinical diagnosis, but it's certainly not a natural way of eating, because you're eating according to rules. I'm only allowed to have so many carbs, or I'm not allowed to have this food, and I need to stop eating by this time, and all of these rules, right? And intuitive eating, and also eating disorder recovery, is all about coming back into your body, reconnecting with your body, learning how to cope with challenging emotions in a new way, so you don't have these imbalanced relationships with food where you're eating for emotional reasons, or to reduce your stress, or even to just kind of like numb yourself out because you feel overwhelmed, right? And sometimes that works on the converse, where people they overly restrict their food, or sometimes don't eat at all, as a way to focus more on the physical sensation of emptiness and discomfort than to really sink into the emotional place inside of themselves where they feel that emptiness and discomfort. It's like a way to sort of transfer and project that energy onto the physical body, because with the physical body, you got something you can see, you got something you can feel, you got something you can touch. And if you believe that, oh, if I just get in touch with my diet, if I can get this under control, if I exercise so many hours a day, if I do this, that, the other, then, then I'm going to drop this weight, and then I'm going to be happy, and everything's going to be better. But it's bullshit. At the end of the day, it's bullshit, because the emptiness is still going to be there. And at the end of the day, no matter what size you are, no matter how many pounds you drop, at some point, you have to look at the elephant in the room. It's an important piece of it. So, I didn't want that to be the focus, because I'm not going through these challenges in the same way that the large majority of the population would be going through these challenges. I do have a history of eating disorder. I've been recovered, for over 2 decades. I've been recovered. All right. I had an anorexia crisis when I was 22 years old, and since then I had been in recovery. But now I no longer have an issue with that. I very much have come to a place where I love myself. I don't want to harm myself in that way. I've learned to get in touch with my body. I've learned healthy coping skills. And yes, I want to look my best, one of the kind of backlash experiences I had from all the years of severely restricting my body, because initially my issues were centered around anorexia. I did so much damage to my body. I did so much damage to my digestive system. I did so much damage to my thyroid. I developed hypothyroid, and my metabolism, that my body really became conditioned to just store everything I ate for dear life, because really, there was no way of knowing, was I going to impose another famine on my body? That's how your biology perceives it. Your body doesn't get that, you're trying to cope with difficult emotions by restricting your food. And that may sound very bizarre, to people that don't have these kind of issues, but those who know. And I feel like this is an important piece to put out here and to share my experience authentically with going through this challenge, because I do plan on bringing a lot of this in here. And in fact, later I am going to be doing, later today, a live where I'm going to talk about intuitive eating and eating disorder. And this is a big focus for my channel, and how Ayurveda can be a great support in recovery when we bring all of these pieces together, that you don't have to stay in this place where you struggle with these issues. And I'm going to bring in all the components, man. And it'll be helpful for people, even people that don't have any of these issues, okay? We're going to bring in a lot of good supportive stuff to this channel. I want this to be like a hub of communal support, for the collective, where we can come and talk about these things. And if you don't know, then you can come and you can understand, but there comes a point where you really can get free of it, right? And then you want to tend to your body and care for your body, and you want to feel your best, and for me, it's just about really having my full, my full vitality back, really just recovering that athletic performance I used to be able to have, having that energy I used to be able to have. And when I first started this Chloe Ting challenge, it was so difficult for me because I realized how out of shape I was, just how challenging it was to do some of the exercises, how much it pushed me. But it's been just this really wonderful experience that as I got into the movement and as I've approached the challenge from the perspective of somebody who is recovered, from the perspective of somebody who has learned that fitness, moving our bodies, is a really potent form of self-care. There's no more devotional act you can do to your body than to make sure that you're giving it what it needs, that you're moving it, working it, keeping it vital. And that applies on many different levels, not just with exercise, but also with actual, self-care, tending to the body, giving yourself, abhyanga, anointing your body with lovely oils, and making sure you're getting good sleep, and that you're keeping your stress down, and that you have time that you sort of set aside just for yourself to relax and maybe get in touch with what you're feeling. And this whole process, these 3 challenges that I've been through, and this one is no different, has been wonderful for just really getting in touch with what I'm feeling, and how to move the energy in a different way, and how to focus on exercise, fitness in a new way, where it's not all about the result, that you see in the mirror, where it's really about the result in here, and how I feel, my rise in self-confidence, and my sense of calm, my sense of ease, how much more supported I feel moving into my day, how much more energized I feel, motivated I feel when I'm caring for myself in this way. And it's also been a wonderful way for me to learn how to channel, difficult emotions as well. Sometimes it just feels so good when I have some extra frustration, or maybe I feel upset about something, I'm angry about something, those are very pitta, fiery emotions. And it feels so good to just bring it to the mat and just channel it and release that energy. And it's great going through it with my friend, because we can sit afterwards and we often process like, wow, this is coming up for me, or I'm noticing this about my experience. And so it's been just so supportive and wonderful. But the last time that I was filming these vlogs for the Chloe Ting Challenge was on Broadcoven. And I knew that people wanted to see these like physical results. So the way I kind of like made sort of a compromise with that, since it's not activating for me at this point, was that at the beginning of each challenge, I would take my total body measurements. And then once a week, I would track what was happening with my waist. And my reasoning for that was that what's carried around the middle, has the most detrimental effect on our health. From a perspective of two of the major, diseases that we deal with in this country, in the United States, but it's an issue worldwide, and everywhere that kind of our highly processed food goes, this seems to follow. But really like that piece of trying to think of the right words. This always gets real, these vlogs. That piece of being able to hold, space for that shadow aspect, and being able to keep in touch with that piece, being mindful, because it's so easy. It's so conditioned in our society to go after this like aesthetic ideal, and yes, heart disease, diabetes, they are big issues. And as that high stress, fast paced, do, go, don't rest, no time to really sink into what you feel, or no time to really give yourself the care, the time, the attention that you need. As these ways of being and the processed food, like losing that connection to our food, losing connection to a sense of true nourishment, as that spreads, the worldwide. Yes, we see this like increase in heart disease and diabetes. And what is a precursor for that? Well, you are looking at, increased holding of fat tissue around the middle. It absolutely plays a role. And that goes into blood sugar deviations, okay? Which is related to syndrome X. You may have heard of this. But what's kind of funny is that the reason why we have so many blood sugar issues and why there's so many people that are storing weight around their middle is because, back in the 90s, it became the it thing to have all these mini meals. Soon it didn't matter if you were hungry or not. You're just supposed to eat, 6 mini meals a day. Keep your blood sugar steady, they said. And this was an answer to the, quote unquote, low fat diet craze that sent sugar levels, skyrocketing. Now we got keto is the big thing, right? But the thing is, keeping your blood sugar steady like that, actually becomes a crutch when you're having all these little mini meals that actually can lead you to becoming hypoglycemic. It actually creates an internal environment that supports blood sugar deviations. And so it's because of this like diet mentality stuff that's one of the reasons why we have this problem with expanding waistlines, okay? But there's also the piece of the stress, the stress. And people often overlook the way that focusing so much on the weight, or focusing so much on what's happening with my measurements, am I going down in clothing sizes, these kind of things, it's actually stress producing. And that raises your cortisol. You raise your cortisol, you're going to get more weight around your middle. So it's like, just like in Ayurveda, we know all of these pieces, they all feed each other, mind, body, spirit. There's no separation. What's going on emotionally will absolutely manifest mentally. It will absolutely manifest physically. And then it will extend, into the macrocosm of the world around you. Because we are that, macrocosm is reflected in the microcosm of us. So there is no separation from any of those pieces. And so one thing I'm really doing different this time, and because I've moved it over here to Cobra's medicine bag, and I wanted to sink deeper into it because I did notice by my third challenge, the way that, when you hit those inevitable places where after you train for a few months, your measurements, they do, start to stall out, right? Your body has to reach stabilizing places, set points, they call them, where things recalibrate before you can continue to release more if that's what needs to happen. And you'll know that if you're eating when you're hungry, you're stopping when you're satisfied, you're not eating for emotional reasons, you're not acting out of eating disorder behavior, and you're getting, good movement, exercise. There comes a point where you have to accept where your body lands. Like that's your individual body's happy resting place. And anytime you're trying to restrict or aim for a specific goal, or I need to be this weight, or which doesn't take into factor, weight is one of the most ridiculous things ever, because it doesn't tell you, that number on the scale doesn't tell you, is that muscle weight? Is that fat? Am I just retaining some water today because I had a bit of extra sodium last night? It's really just this like mirage, but we've invested as a society so much focus and importance in this. And I'm not saying that it's not valuable to be at a size where you feel your best, you have your best energy, you're radiant, you have strength, you have good mobility, you can perform at a physically high level. That's all wonderful. Those are wonderful goals. And so it makes more sense to actually put the focus there. Because does it really matter what the number on the scale says if you are feeling your best, if you have good energy, if you're strong, if you feel less stress in your life, if you're happy, if you're not engaging in unhealthy coping mechanisms because you're really showing up and taking good care of yourself. And I just realized this just doesn't matter. And I saw the ways that, in my desire to sort of meet that need for the public to see, I want to see the physical result, even though I had wonderful physical results. Okay, I did. And you can hear more about that. If you want to learn about that part of it, you can go ahead and go on to Broadcoven and you can look at my playlist and you can hear about my physical results. I did have really amazing results with my measurements, but I also hit a point where it slowed down naturally because I did release quite a bit. And I noticed when the slowdown happened, certain just like thoughts coming into my head that took some of the joy that I had been building in the movement out of the picture. And that made me realize that even when you're in a place, of recovery, if you let this be your focus, it can start to shift your motivation in a way that's not really supportive. So that's why I decided this round, no measurements. No measurements. No measurements, no before and after photos, no stepping on a scale because I haven't stepped on a scale for many years. I wanted to make this experience just a very natural experience of me showing up and caring for my body simply because I deserve this care. And because I'm really enjoying how it's rewarding me in so many other ways that are really improving the quality of my life. And that's been my focus. And I have to say, I'm just super proud of myself for being aware of that and shifting things over here to move it in this direction, because I think it'll be a great support for others that are trying to navigate this terrain, and find a way to approach fitness and get back to a place of true vitality and health that won't throw them back in some of those old tapes, those old programs they used to run in their consciousness. And I've also been finding this a much more deep and rewarding experience this time around without that being the focus. And I find it improving my results in so many ways. I just feel like my energy is lighter. I feel more inspired. I'm better able to know what my body needs and how to meet those needs in the movement. And I'm seeing nothing but progress and success. So, we're about halfway through the challenge now, and it's just feeling amazing to me. So good. We're finishing up this second week. We got a few more workouts to do for this second week, and then we'll be heading into the final week already. So this is my update for you. It's going really well. I'm feeling really good about it. And I hope you get something out of me sharing my experience. And please feel free to drop a comment, share your experience. I'd love to open up a supportive dialogue around this for all of you who are navigating this kind of territory right alongside me. And I'll be back next week with another update. Have a beautiful day.